if you want to delete your email from your mail app, you just swipe in, click trash, and none of this stuff really goes to another page here. So this is behavior that we wanted. And what we've done in order to get that behavior in the version of the app that we have right now, we basically got our Rails app and we stuck Angular on top of that app, right? So what we end up having is something that we call Rangular. And I might just copyright that term going forward, so nobody should use it anymore. It is awesome. Right? So we got stuff interactive. So we saw there's this slide over thing, there's, you click on the collab or pass and it just changes stuff on the page without the page refresh. It's all on a single page, but there are two major pain points. So first of all, things were kind of getting slow. And we hit the code organization problem. So let me tell you about both of those problems in a little detail. So let's start with slow. So what is slow? This is the New Relic trace. New Relic is, is a tool for monitoring your apps. Here's a breakdown. So this is the Rails app that we have in production. It's a different Rails app, not that one that I've showed you. This app does this particular endpoint serves you a JSON, right? JSON data. So as you might see here, that 87% of the whole time is spent, that is dangerous, is spent in the rendering of the template. In other words, it averages out to 200 milliseconds. It takes about 200 milliseconds to get the data that is already in the memory and put it in the template. I mean, I don't know what it's taking that long, but it gets like it takes maybe 13 milliseconds to get the data from the database. Request queuing is about 12 milliseconds, but it's 200 milliseconds here, and it is pretty significant time. So Rails was already slow when we started. So what we've done, we took Angular and stuck it on top of this, and now the code path is actually even longer, so the stuff got a lot slower. So, and this stuff just drives me crazy. It's two apps in one repo. I find it really hard to wrap your mind around that concept, where you, in your application, you have actually two apps. So here you have, in your classic Rails structure, you have your model views, controllers inside the app folder, but you also have another models, views, and controls inside your app, assets, and JavaScripts. And which is where? Like, what's happening here? Which one should I use? I just go ahead and type in Kindness controller, and I got 4 files. One of them is Ruby, one of them is JS, one runs on the server side, one on the browser. What spec is where? What's happening here? It's really hard to wrap your mind around this concept, but also it is really hard to basically ramp up new developers on it. So basically what you have is, it slows down your development. And this is what I think about when I think about developing Rails app, where front end and back end are all, tangled, all tied together. As a result of that, it's hard to optimize this thing. And here's what we've done in order to improve those things. So we broke it up, and we've done a really, really simple move. We took Angular, we put it in a different repo altogether, and this has became our front-end app. And we took Rails, we put it on the back end. So, and Rails, all it does is it serves you some API, so some data, it's an API server. And front-end communicates with the back-end over HTTP protocol. Pretty simple stuff. So let me tell you what we've used to do this kind of stuff. So we've used this combo of having, Human, Grunt, and Bower. Many of you are probably already familiar with those set of tools, but it is a fantastic combination of tools. Human basically does similar stuff that Rails generate. Generator does for you to scaffold your application. Grunt automates our deployment, build process, runs tests, runs, library loads everything. It's really convenient. And Bower is something that's similar to Bundler, but for JavaScript. It's for managing your JavaScript packages and managing dependencies, resolving them. It's really, really nice. So by having all these three tools, we just did npm install all those three. We basically created a new scaffold right away. So we hit the ground running, all plumbing is already there, we started developing. So now we have some work to do. So when we started doing that, we have basically like scaffolded JavaScript Angular app on one side and Fat Rails app on another. So first thing we got to do, we had to port all the views from Rails into our new Angular front-end app. Thank God there's this awesome plugin called grunt-haml. We just plug it in. We didn't need to translate our Haml templates into anything else. We just port it as is. And we got all views and port them into Angular. So integration tests that we had Capybara with RSpec integration tests on the Rails side. All of them had to be re-implemented on the client side using Jasmine framework, because now it runs in a different stack. So we couldn't just take them out. And we needed to get away from jQuery. I mean, jQuery is awesome. I mean, it does some pretty crazy stuff sometimes, but that's the problem with that also. So we needed to get away from the class manipulation, sometimes even DOM manipulation, or wherever these bad practices are. Using ng class for classes, and we had to write several custom directives in our Angular application. Alrighty, so we've done all this great stuff, and here's what we have in return. So now we have two apps and two repos. We have one app in the repo, in the front-end repo, and another app in the back-end repo. So no more crazy two apps in one app problem. So the app became a little snappier. So because we have this really interactive stuff happening on the page, and the backend only thing it does, it just serves the API, serves the data as an API. Things became a little bit faster, and it's faster visual feedback, and it's actually better user experience as well. So, and this is a really big one. It's like right now we're in a world where we have an API server, and we have a web Fat client server on the website, and they talk over HTTP. But what we can do right now that we have an API, we can take iPhone and build an iPhone client that will utilize the same API. Now we can go ahead and build an Android app, and Android app will utilize the same API. So and after that, you name it, iPad, any other client that we have can basically utilize the same API. And this is what we couldn't do before. But wait, there's more stuff that we can do now. So more stuff we can do now on the front end. You know what? Now all our front end stuff is just a bunch of static files. We can just get this whole thing and utilize the CDN for it. So now it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're in Russia, in Japan, in the United States. If we throw this old stuff onto CDN, every file on our front end will be served from the closest server to you, which will basically reduce the time spent in the network request dramatically. And we also can look into Angular template cache to load all the templates all at once, since it's already in CDN, so Angular doesn't get more templates from the backend. So, and this is, coming back to this off the Rails thing, now Rails is just an API server. We can get away from Rails altogether. We don't have to use Rails at this point. So we can use Sinatra, go with Node. It doesn't matter what it is. It's like use any framework you want, it doesn't matter. And we can optimize it using different web servers as well. So we don't have to run traditional, unicorn web server that works everywhere. We can now, go into many other fast alternatives, like Puma, for example. And it's all available and it's all possible because now it is separate. And this is really big, it's really important point here. Front end needs one kind of optimization. And backend needs another kind of optimization, right? And we couldn't optimize both of them when they were together because they needed different things. So now when they're all separate, we can apply different strategies to optimize both of them. All right, recap. So here's what we went through. It is a real story. We have an app. We built the first version of it with Rails because we want to ship it fast. We hit, slowness and code organizational problem, and also we needed an API for our mobile clients, so we broke it up using Angular, and on the back we still have Rails app, but we're looking forward to replace it with some more, appropriate framework, more faster framework for API. And this is a secret slide. I didn't show it to my team. They're probably, if you find people who look like that, that's my homies. Want to say big thanks to the team. It's been a pleasure to work in a group of smart people. And I just want to thank everybody, Megan, Dave, Josh, Matt, to support this initiative. It is really takes some skill and some attitude to just start innovating. Because for the majority of all the apps, all the Rails apps that use Angular, they just stop at version 1 and just live through the pain. And big thanks for the team. All right, there's a bit more. So if there's one takeaway from this presentation is, just go ahead or use the right tool for the job. It is really one thing that I'm trying to say. If you're using Rails and all you need to build is a website, like a website that doesn't have to be responsive, doesn't have to do stuff on a single page, use Rails. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying that you should just go ahead and rewrite all the Rails apps into Angular. No, use the right tool for the job. But if you need something more interactive, you might look into AngularJS. But don't get distracted by the shiny object. Use the right tool for the job. And with that, thank you.